Please take your seats. The meeting is about to begin. Remember to speak into the microphone, as this meeting is being recorded for public record. Please stand by. We are going on air in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Laura Dominguez, Miami Beach Commissioner, and I'm Chair of the Public Safety and Neighborhood Quality of Life Committee. And with me today is Vice Chair David Suarez and Committee Member Joe Magazine. We also have Assistant City Manager Mark Taxes and Deputy City Attorney Rob Rosenwald and the fabulous Stephanie Ray Brooks. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And with that, we'll get started with the meeting. The first item we will hear is number 2.
All right, we have just a couple of announcements really quick. We have 2 items that will be deferred. Item number 5, discuss options to address drones or other aircrafts that engage in illegal activity. And item number 9, discuss regarding concessions, regulations, and layouts to ensure that sufficient areas remain available at all times for public enjoyment of the beaches. So we'll start with item number 2, discuss the school board joint use agreement review regarding Miami Beach Nautilus Middle School fence request at Polo Park.
Hi.
Good morning, everyone. John Rebar, Parks and Recreation Director. We just wanted to bring this to the committee's attention. State law has changed as it relates to the security of school campuses. And if you're familiar with Nautilus Middle School is adjacent to Polo Park. Polo Park is a city property. And they also utilize it for PE and other outdoor activities. And the school board needs to create a secure perimeter, but we also want to maintain some public access. So have that security that we all want for the students, but also have public access specifically to the children's playground, which is heavily used by the community during the school day, and the tennis courts and pickleball courts. There was a meeting with the school board, a walkthrough on Friday. I don't have a drawing to give you today because we're still working this through, but we're very optimistic that we're going to be able to come to a compromise that could provide exactly what I outlined, and that is a secure campus, but still have that access to a city park.
Do you think you'll have a compromise by the October meeting?
I would hope so. I cannot control the speed at which. I hope so because it is a priority. This went into effect, I believe, August 1st as a mandate in the school, so they are motivated to get this done. So I will try my best to push it through, but we do need information from them. Oh, and they're also willing to pay for it because this is a security measure that they need. Mm-hmm. But the fence will go on our property, but they will pay for it and maintain it.
Colleagues, do you have any comments? Is there any public comment?
No public comments at this time.
Deputy City Attorney, would this go to commission or would we hang on to it here at committee?
I think at this point you hang on to it and see what agreement comes out, and
Okay.
then you would move it after you've heard what that is and discussed it. Because I don't think that anybody has any real idea at this point what the school board is going to come back to after hearing our proposal.
Okay. Thank you very much. Then we'll move this item to the October meeting to hear this again. And next item we will hear is number 3.
Item number 3 is discuss the implementation of Project Blue Light program authorizing private business cameras to have a direct feed into the Real-Time Intelligence Crime Center. And this will be presented by police.
Ask Stephanie. Hi.
Good
Welcome.
morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Here today to discuss a new initiative requested by the mayor. This was a referral to this committee to discuss Project Blue Light, which entails bringing private business camera feeds into the Real-Time Intelligence Center. So we've been researching this item. There's a lot to unpack. There's a lot of ways to implement a project like this. I'll go over a couple of the concerns, a couple of the issues that we're going to need to resolve and deal with, maybe get some ideas from the committee, and hopefully come back with a fully fleshed out recommendation. So this idea began with a project in, apparently in Detroit many years ago, where they were having a serious crime problem, and some private businesses such as convenience stores and gas stations asked the police department to have their video feeds brought into the police station. So that was done, and it ended up working out in their environment, and that was the start of this idea. So some of our research has indicated, and we've talked to a lot of our partners. We just came back from the second annual Real-Time Crime Center Association conference and got a lot of ideas from there. So one of the hardest things to deal with in this is that every business is going to have their own video systems. Those are not necessarily compatible with our system, so bringing them in is going to require some kind of technological solution. That can be done by either us going out and finding a single platform to connect all these disparate systems and bring them into our center as one platform. This could be done piecemeal by going to each individual business and configuring them separately depending on their makeup, and figure out a way to bring it into our crime center. So and obviously there's cost differences with each one of those. So that's one of our biggest hurdles, is figuring out whether we want to do this as a single platform or individual. A second concern, and I have the CIO here, is the concern about network traffic. So this bringing cameras from all these disparate businesses and outside is not part of our city network. So we're going to have to figure out a way to get all that network traffic into our real-time intelligence center. And that's going to require a technological
I have
solution.
a question. Actually,
Yeah.
I have a question for Chris. This is Mayor Minor's item. Are you familiar with it? It was listed here as a discussion item. How does the mayor want to move forward with this? Because this is a fairly new item. It's from June.
Good morning, Madam Commissioner. Candidly, I know you wishes to go forward with it. How exactly? I'm unfamiliar. If you give me a moment, I can reach out and get better
Sure,
information.
because it sounds like a big financial impact, and configuring every single business to do it. Did he mean for it to be on a volunteer basis, or businesses that already were compatible? I would like to get a little more detail. So yeah, if you could reach out, and then maybe we'll move this to the bottom, and then I'll come back to you.
Absolutely,
Okay.
Commissioner. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. All right. It was the car. All right, so now we'll move to we won't close this one out. We'll wait until Chris reaches out, and we'll talk about this again later today. Let's do number 8.
Okay. Item number 8 is to discuss the implementation of a text messaging system to facilitate reporting code compliance complaints.
Okay, and the sponsor is Commissioner Fernandez, co-sponsored by Commissioner Magazine. Fernandez, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for calling this item. This is an item I placed on the agenda to facilitate the ease of communication between our residents and our government. I always get so happy when I see our government communicate in new ways with the public. It does enhance that level of communication, transparency, but communication is a two-way street. We can only deliver the best of services to our residents if we facilitate for them the ability to communicate to us the concerns that they may have. And I believe that as a government, we need to facilitate those lines of communication, modernize them to the forms of communications that our residents are using. Traditionally, when it comes to reporting matters of code enforcement, it's been done by calling I think before it was 604 City. I don't know if we're still using 604 City. We are. We are still using 604 City. With time, we've also incorporated an app, which is a great app, and we encourage everyone to use that app. But not everyone likes to download an app on their phone. Not everyone likes to create an account and remember the username and the password. But the one thing I do know is that every resident text messages. Because I know, because we as an elected body sometimes receive those text messages from the public when they have issues with code violations. And that's an issue that is a regulatory matter that I really don't feel comfortable as an elected official being really too involved in the middle of. And I just end up passing the text message over to Hernan or Tom Curatori over at Code Enforcement. The ideal thing would be if we allowed the public to text Code Enforcement directly. I think it's, in the general public, the preferred mode of communicating outwards. And so I see we have our Chief Information Officer, Frank Quintana, here, and Tom and Hernan Cardeno. I'd like to defer to them, Madam Chair, if you allow me to inform us of where we are in the progress of incorporating a text-to-code system.
Sure. Good morning. Frank Quintana, CIO with the city. So after you brought the item several months ago, we engaged in an initiative with the code department to understand volumes of phone calls, volumes of what comes in through the app, so we understood where the sources are coming from. And at the same time, we looked at our portfolio of technology that we have to figure out what we had available to us today that was something that we would be able to implement within a reasonable amount of time or at a reasonable cost to be able to address this. And I'm happy to report we are well on our way to implementing the ability to intake text messages as a way to communicate and engage with our residents. That's going to be done. The plan continues at the pace that we're at. That'll be done through a short code, and we've registered one with the carriers. The main delay at this point has been when you register a short code. So for example, text pound whatever and then a message, that needs to be registered with all the carriers, with AT&T, with Verizon, with T-Mobile, and it's done by an agency or an organization that manages those kinds of relationships with the carriers. Without that, texting directly isn't something that you can do one-off and ensure that it works for everyone.
And so, Madam Chair, just what is the estimated timeline in order to complete that registration of the short code with the different carriers?
So right now, we're about halfway through the timeline of that registration period. We've submitted all the information. It's supposed to be provisioned, and we will be assigned that short code. I would expect to have that up and running within the next 60 days.
60 days. Okay, so now let me ask you this, because I know we have many different types of interfaces that create automatic workflows for the assignment of complaints. Would this short code be able to, or would it be compatible with Intergov?
So the way that it would work is the short code will give us the ability to move that text message that comes in to whichever call center or phone number is manned at the time. Depending on the time of the day, sometimes it's done at the 604 City Call Center, sometimes it's done after hours. So a traditional put a cell phone on someone's desk and have them just check that is really impractical because we flow our calls throughout the day depending on staffing requirements. That'll allow it to come into whatever the call center that's available at the time, and that person will triage it, make sure that it's for code, and then be able to convert that into an actual ticket or an incident in the system. And the reason for that is we understand from years of having the app and what people actually register for, or what they submit as an incident, sometimes is something for public works or something for parks or something for police, right? So for us to be able to automate that, while it sounds like the best path forward, and ideally we would do that, it's going to create unintended consequences with the other departments to see it and say, well, this isn't really a code.
Understood.
So
understood. And frankly, Frank, I appreciate the holistic approach to it. If we're going to have a number for code, it sounds great actually that we're able to centralize a number of other services. If someone has an issue with traffic in a neighborhood, or if someone has an issue with public works, flooding, a pothole, to be able to text that one number, and as you mentioned, be able then to assign it to the proper workflow.
Right.
And
that's
so
really
you
the
said
intent.
in 60 days, we should have the registration completed with the different carriers.
Correct.
Okay, so what I would like to do is continue this item, Madam Chair, if you allow me, for 60 days. But with the 60-day mark, I'd also like to get from the administration a plan for the administration of this number, how it's going to be handled internally, how the information is going to be sorted, to make sure that we follow up on these complaints coming in by text message, and also the communication of it. So that in 60 days, we'll get your update of where we are with the registration of the short code, but also the plan, so that once it goes live, we are able to follow up on those requests appropriately.
Thank you, Commissioner Fernandez. So Stephanie will bring this back in November. Commissioner Magazine, you're the co-sponsor. Did you have any comments to share?
No, not to belabor this, but I think anytime that we can get the public more actively engaged, and I'm all for cutting out government bureaucracy. So many times it is just our constituents don't know who to reach out to. They send it to us, and then we are just simply passing that message along. All you need to do is look on social media. When people see something, they know it's out of place, but they don't know where to go. So I think this is a fabulous system to get our residents more engaged and facilitate an easier process for them to alert us.
Stephanie, any public comment?
No public comment at this time.
Okay, so we'll move this item to November, and with that, we'll go to number 10.
Item number 10 is discuss a resolution of the Mayor and City Commission of the City of Miami Beach, Florida, directing the city administration to explore the viability of creating police substations similar to police substations in North Beach, in the Collins Park neighborhood, at City Hall, in south of 5th Neighborhood and Mid Beach, in order to make law enforcement resources incident reporting more easily accessible, readily available for residents and visitors, and to more efficiently address criminal activity throughout the city, and further directing the city administration to report their findings and proposals to the Public Safety and Neighborhoods Quality of Life Committee at its July 10th meeting, in order for the committee to provide its recommendation, including the fiscal and administrative impact, to the Mayor and City Commission in advance of the fiscal year.
And I quickly want to say thank you, Commissioner Fernandez, for being here. This is your item. I also would like to acknowledge committee member Commissioner Kristen Rosen Gonzalez, and thank you, Commissioner Bott, for coming as well. Would you like to tee it up, Commissioner Fernandez?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. So currently, the police department has one substation in North Beach that provides in-person services for walk-in reporting during business hours. I think one of the great things about the substation is that they also serve as a deterrent. That visibility of having a station away from the centralized headquarters in South Beach, whenever we get closer to the people, that visibility encourages a level of deterrence of crime. We also encourage through it the community to be more in contact with their police officers, and likewise facilitate the greater presence of officers in those neighborhoods. This item was for the police department to come back with their findings and proposals. I think we had it in May. And I think we continued it to the September meeting so that the department could give us their proposals. So, Chief, I see you're at the podium. Excited and eager to hear the proposals that the police department has for the committee's consideration.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, all the rest of the commissioners, for allowing us to have this conversation today. As you know, we are committed to enhancing our presence throughout the community as much as reasonably possible. We believe in the business of community policing. We do understand and appreciate the fact that having substations does allow for some of that. But when we look at resources needed to do this, we have to sort of prioritize which should come first. I can tell you one of the things I'm most excited about, that in recent days we've been having conversations about the community center on 6th Street, which I believe is a viable location for us to stand up one of our units there. And that unit will be used to attract the community, provide space for community members to do community events and other activities very excited about the possibility of getting access and activating the community center on Sixth Street. As far as other substations are concerned, we have multiple locations throughout the city that we do have current police presence. We actually, in fact, we have up to 5 places throughout the city that we have police presence. Now, 4 of those 5 are discrete locations for reasons I'd rather not discuss openly. One of those is the North Beach substation. In terms of priority, we'd like to look at putting a substation here in this building at City Hall for a host of security reasons. And so, whereas we're looking to put substations throughout other areas in the city, Mr. Commissioner, our preference and priority would be putting something here in this facility.
Okay, so where are we with looking into that? Today was to present the proposal for it. So is there a proposal ready to be considered by the committee today?
Not one that's finalized. There is a potential space on the first floor. That would mean displacing a current department that's there. My understanding is minimal build out once we do have that space, if that's possible. It really includes minimum security measures to put in place, to include cameras, monitors being put in there, workstations being put in there for the officers and their public safety specialists that'll be assigned to the space. But in terms of timeline, if that's what you're looking for, I don't have that for you today.
Okay.
Vice Chair Suarez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we're, I guess I wouldn't want to see resources put into a substation in City Hall. I think the whole idea or the whole intent, and I don't mean to put words in my colleague's mouth, is that the reason we want to see substations is because there's certain crime happening in neighborhoods. And we believe that having a substation in those neighborhoods will prevent that crime or will deter that crime. So for example, in North Beach, just yesterday, we got a notification that someone got robbed at knife point, a couple. They stole his wallet, his watch, and then they fondled the woman. I think that's where we need to have a substation, where and that's the resources it should be put, not at City Hall. I think we have armed security guards at City Hall already. I don't really see the need for having a police substation here. We're not really in a residential neighborhood. I mean, I know there's Palmview behind us, but when you look at some of the crime that's happening, I think it's best if we put resources where they need it.
Commissioner, could I just add one point? The proposal to put a substation in City Hall was in part initiated by the legal department in response to a discussion of the commission about the possibility of having metal detectors installed here at City Hall. If you all wanted to make the policy decision, which you haven't made, but which some have expressed an interest in, having metal detectors here at City Hall, we would need to find a legal path to do that. And one of the only ways to do that we've found is to establish a police substation here. So as part of that discussion, that would be the consideration that we would ask you to look at.
And thank you for that. And again, I mean, I think my point still stands, is that we have, we have serious crimes. I don't think there's ever been a crime. It's like, not to say that could ever happen, but there's no real crimes that happen at City Hall. We've had serious crimes happen every day in some of the most challenging neighborhoods. And so I think before we put resources into construction, build out, personnel, I think those resources are really better served in neighborhoods that need them the most. And so, I don't think that having a legal workaround for the idea of having metal detectors here it justifies the allocation of those resources.
Yeah. Commissioner, ma'am. Commissioner, part of the reason there was a desire to have a substation here goes beyond the legal workaround. We have a number of employees that here reside in this building on a daily basis. Many of them have complained, some of them directly to me, about their concern of their personal safety. And so this is sort of killing two birds with one stone, I'll be honest with you. But if the direction is to reprioritize our list of location, happy to do that.
Commissioner Bott.
Thank you. Can you explain, without not talking about the ones that we're not talking about in public, not talking about the substations that we're not talking about in public, is there a difference in type of substation? Like, if there's a need for one south of Fifth and it's got a certain set of concerns, is that a substation that could look X way? And if in North Beach, adjacent to Altos Del Mar in that park, we have a different set of concerns, does that substation look different? Or are they all have to be the same? I mean, I think all of us want to make sure that your police officers are in the field and not behind a desk, obviously. But so are there different ways to use a substation in a way that will deter crime and provide a resource for residents who need to have a visit, ask a police officer something?
Yes, there is, and that's an excellent question. One of the thoughts we had, particularly when you look at the South of Fifth neighborhood, is not to make just a standalone sub-police station, but make it sort of a place where other city services can reside and provide direct services to the community, saving them a trip in many cases to City Hall, saving them a phone call or an email to administrators here at City Hall. And that would include other departments sort of supporting the substation or auxiliary location.
Madam Chair. Thank you. We've received a number of complaints about Collins Park, about the Collins Park area. We've had individuals that have been killed in that area. We got numerous complaints about the I think it's the CVS across from the W, where there's a number of issues there. We have not only are we making great investments there because it's a cultural area, but we also have a facility for children there, and so there's a need to address the public safety needs of the Collins Park area. To my colleagues' concern about North Beach, we already have a substation in North Beach, but in Collins Park, what did you guys look at Collins Park? What are the considerations that have been taken into account for possible substation there?
So I have looked at Collins Park, in North Beach. One of the things we did, in addition to a station that's pre-existing on Indian Creek, we partnered with the county, and now they have a full-time police officer at the library in North Beach. Collins Park library as well also has a police officer there, and so we can potentially co-locate our substation in the library in Collins Park, adjacent to the cultural activations that are there.
Okay. And I don't know how my colleagues would feel about that. I know that the public safety situation in Collins Park has been a recurring issue, has been a recurring concern of the city commission. And I wouldn't be opposed to seeing a greater presence of the police department in the Collins Park area. But I need a proposal. This item was coming back today so that we could have, something that we could review beforehand, and the memo doesn't really give me that proposal. And so, I like for this item to come back next month with an actual proposal. I don't know where the balance of my colleagues would land on having something located or co-located in the Collins Park area. But with the amount of investment we're making in that area with taxpayers' dollars, and the amount of investments going in with private dollars, and the number of complaints and crimes we've seen in that area, I think anything that we can do to increase the police visibility there beyond the physical presence of police officers, but actually having a substation there as a permanent form of deterrence could go a long way. And I would like to know how my colleagues would feel about that.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Fernandez. I almost see City Hall as an extension of Collins Park. The Botanical Garden is there, and then Collins Park is just on the other side of the convention center. So having a substation here, I feel, would still
Serve the
help
area.
and support Collins Park. Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez.
My only concern is the cost of all of this. We were just talking, we're passing our budget right now. We're saying that already, we're spending X on police and fire. So I think it all depends on what the costs are. Now, if you can get space from the county for free and the reallocation costs very little, that's fine. Could there be a reallocation of resources instead of addition?
There can be, I can tell you, and no matter which location we add a substation to, it won't be a 24/7 activation, because it's really hard to justify it based on cost of service in any given area. So there may be an opportunity to reallocate some of what we have, and there may be, in some cases, maybe a small uptick in the cost of adding personnel. But that's the type of analysis we'll do for and bring back to you.
Can I?
Yeah, Commissioner.
Okay, and then I'll pass it on. I wouldn't mind both. I mean, if you're going to do City Hall or Collins Park, I wouldn't mind both, because really the library has become a hotbed of criminal activity, and a lot of the issues that we've seen at the Bass, it's right there. If you could reallocate and station somebody there, I can't see how it would hurt. All I'm saying, I mean, I think it's gotten way better, for sure. But it's still, are you still finding homeless people there, and criminal activity?
Yeah, so
often?
we have a daily outreach in 3 shifts in the Collins Park neighborhood. So every now and again, folks are caught doing things they shouldn't be doing, or sleeping where they shouldn't be sleeping, and we have to take police action as a result of that. Yeah.
And it goes beyond sleeping though, because, we got complaints from people about people urinating in public. We've had people killed there. We have, it just goes beyond the issue of sleeping. I think sleeping is perhaps the least concerning of the situation. I'm more concerned actually about the safety of the individual sleeping there than anything else.
Okay, Vice Chair Suarez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And that, again, I think all of my colleagues agree, and that speaks to my point. I think if there's a substation in City Hall, it's not really a deterrent, right? Because there's no physical presence all the time. When I think of a substation, perhaps, maybe we have a trailer, like a command trailer. It's got Miami Beach Police Department logo on it, et cetera. And you could put that in the parking lot of Collins Park, for example. Maybe that's an idea where, you can actually move it. Maybe go to North Beach and you have, and you set up a substation there for a couple of months. But I just don't think that having a substation in City Hall would have any impact on deterring crime, because everyone knows where City Hall is, and most people are not going to know that there's a substation here. I think one of the benefits of having a substation is its physical presence, and so I think that'll just deter crime organically.
Okay, Vice Mayor Fernandez, where would you like this item to?
Well, I like the item to come back next month with an actual proposal. I'm not a voting member of this committee. I kind of like the idea of having a presence in City Hall, because we do have large events that do take place at the convention center. We're going to have a convention center hotel at some point. We're going to have a large investment of public funds in the Fillmore to rehabilitate that building. And hopefully with the added activity that we see, hopefully on Lincoln Road, coming from all of this, it can help, this substation could help all of those areas. I do think I like Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez's idea of having a presence in City Hall and exploring what could we do in the Collins Park area in partnership with the library, anything like that. What I need is a well-prepared item, an item that brings back what was the request, which is a proposal. And this item did not bring me what I asked for in the May meeting. It's very difficult for us to sit down here and to discuss this when the item doesn't give us what we asked for. And so for the next meeting, please give us the actual proposal, the actual findings, the cost, the resources you're going to need, because to Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez's point, we're in the process of adopting next year's fiscal year budget. So it's not gonna, we're not gonna be able to incorporate it into that, but we need to start now looking at the resources that we're gonna need for fiscal year 26.
Understood.
And we need to start that conversation now so we can do this responsibly.
Understood.
Commissioner Magazine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think it's important when we're sitting here saying come back with different locations to first state out what our goal is for a police substation, right? It sounds simple, but I think that's our baseline where we start. For me, it is increasing the visibility and the presence of police in unactivated areas where currently that's what essentially facilitates crime or a feeling or at least a perception from our community of a lack of public safety. You know, we've talked at length about perhaps it's not upticks in crime, but it's the perception that people don't feel safe. And enhancing or increasing police visibility in areas is one way to essentially alleviate some of those concerns. So when I think about where we're going to place substations, it's really helping increase police visibility in unactivated areas, right? That's my primary goal. So I like the idea of the Collins Park area. Even though we have one in North Beach, are there other areas in North Beach where it would help to have an increased feel? Remote areas in south of Fifth or in Flamingo Park. I kind of tend to agree with my colleague, Commissioner Suarez, about City Hall, where it's like, okay, well, this is already an activated area with people traveling in and out. That doesn't mean nothing could ever happen here, but when I think about the goal of a substation is to enhance and increase that visibility in areas that are somewhat unactivated. So that's what I would look for when discussing locations.
Understood.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, and then we're going to wrap this up.
One final thing that I wouldn't exclude is the fact that right now, taxpayers have given the Bass a tremendous amount of museum, and they're building a whole wing. It could be a small, tiny room. You just need, it's something that you need to build out. I'm sure you need to put like radio equipment, electric, whatever. Also, we're building out those 2 retail spaces, one of where Miami New Drama is going. And then adjacent, you have the workforce housing that has an additional 2,400 square feet on the bottom floor. If you were going to put a permanent substation in that area, now is the time before we spend the money on that build out to go in and find out what are the electrical and communication needs that you need for a substation. How big is it going to be? Because it would cost us a lot less money to draw it into some plans right now. And we were just talking about spending $7 million, right? So, I mean, if we could use the monies that we already have to include it in that, we wouldn't have to count on the on the county or the library or impose. I mean, I feel like it's a sad day when we need to add police to the library, but it's just the whole area and the real estate. So if you wanted to temporarily move into something like that, but then have a long-term plan and we build something in.
Thank you. Okay, Vice Chair Suarez.
And I just want to get feedback from my colleagues and specifically the item sponsor. Are you okay with the police chief coming back with a possible plan on a mobile substation where we can move it toward, after a certain area maybe sort of quote unquote fixed, we move it to the next challenged area. And so if that's okay with the sponsor, I'd love to see what that quote would be.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next meeting is October 23rd. If you can come back with that information, would greatly appreciate it. All right, so on to the
Madam
next
Chair,
item.
I just want to make sure that there's clarity. We're coming back with three items. The mobile, which I love the idea of the mobile. I love the idea of that. Collins Park, somewhere in Collins Park, and City Hall. I just want to make sure that that's what we're asking the chief to come back with.
Okay,
Yes.
so City Hall is still on the table? Is that a yes? Okay, very good. Got it.
Yeah.
It's just as an option.
Yes, sir. Happy to do it. Thank you. All right.
Next item, number 4.
Item number 4 is discuss a resolution of the Mayor and City Commission of the City of Miami Beach, Florida, directing the administration to develop a plan, strategically implement enhanced public safety measures periodically through the year, and present the plan for the discussion at the Public Safety, Neighborhoods, Quality, and Life Control meeting on September 18th. And this is presented by police.
Okay, Vice Mayor Fernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Oftentimes when we talk about high-impact periods, we think about spring break or we think about Memorial Day weekend. The reality is that throughout the year, we also have many other high-impact periods that during which we want to make sure that we continue that heightened level of enforcement, that consistent and visible enforcement that we see during spring break and other times of the year. This resolution directed the police department to develop a plan to strategically implement these enhanced public safety measures during other critical high-impact periods of the year. And so I like a presentation on that plan and how we can move forward with it.
Thank you, Commissioner, for bringing this. Our daily staffing numbers are scalable. And they're scalable for this very, very reason that at a given moment's notice, we can upsize our officers on the street. We can address any concerns that may not be planned for, but can be addressed in an adequate way. With regard to spring break, Memorial Day weekend, and the big holidays and high-impact periods we plan for months for, we do have other small events that we plan for throughout the year. Not very well publicized, not want to publicize them, but to give you some examples of those would be like Labor Day weekend we just went through. Incredibly enhanced staffing for that event itself throughout the city, on all shifts, partnering with partner agencies that are here. Our LPR systems that we're so proud of and has worked so well in terms of us preventing and solving crimes are working 24/7, 365. Every entrance in the city, every exit out of the city is covered by these cameras. Our camera system throughout the city is constantly being used to detect crime and to solve crime. DUI checkpoints throughout the year are being used to do the very same thing, although, again, we don't highlight those things. We have Halloween that's coming up that we have enhanced staffing for, something we don't publicize, but lots of cops dealing with a lot of situations, Lincoln Road and the Mid-Beach area because of huge activations. So our plan is designed such that at any given moment, we have enough cops here on the police department. We can call more cops in if we need to, reach out to partner agencies if necessary, but that's what it's designed to do.
Okay, but that doesn't tell me what the plan is. We asked for a plan. I'll tell you why I put this item on the agenda. I placed this item on the agenda because we have, spring break, we have Memorial Day weekend, and we have other high-impact periods in the city. There is this perception that for the wrong reasons, we implement a heightened level of police presence during spring break and Memorial Day, which is inconsistent with reality. We are implementing a high level police presence during those weekends because of the crimes that we experience and the influx of individuals that we experience during those weekends. But I think we need to show that we're not just concerned about those 2 weekends. We need to show that there are other weekends during which we are dealing with a heightened level of people, and that we are going to consistently enforce our laws, whether it be open container or whether it be issues with expired registrations or whether it be possession of marijuana in public, whatever it may be, and that requires coordination with other agencies.
Yes.
Unfortunately, those other agencies, we're not tapping on them on these other weekends. Halloween has traditionally been a very large weekend, but we're not calling on them to come in and support us. So these other agencies, like Miami-Dade County, think we're only focusing on spring break and Memorial Day weekend for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And so this resolution asked for there to be a plan to strategically find other periods during the year during that, might not rise to the level of spring break, but during which we may still need that level of support to reach out to ask them for their support so that they are aware, that we are actually enforcing and doing this consistent level of police work during other times of the year. Today, I was expecting a plan. Today, I was expecting for someone to come here to tell me what is that plan, what are those other weekends? And I don't have a plan in front of me.
So the plan is ongoing, Commissioner. We've always had a plan. And the truth to be told, the perception that you speak of, I agree with you, it's wrong. We activate all the time. Every major activation we do, we go through a whole litany of things we consider before deploying resources and configuring out how much police officers, resources we need to address it. Halloween, you mentioned, for example, the fact is that's a plan that's in place, that's tweaked on an annual basis. Although there's a lot of people that we have to address and police, the need doesn't rise to the point where we need to have other outside agencies support us. There are times throughout the year where we do, for example, details on DUI details, where we partner with other agencies here in the city because of the nature of those details. There are plans, for example, during the annual football game that happens in December in the city, not
But
in the
Chief,
county.
Chief,
even though-
I need to interrupt you because what I hear consistently is that we're overworking our police officers. This is what I hear consistently. Okay? And the reason why we hear this is because we attract events that bring in, well-known performers and that bring a large crowd size and that increase our hotel occupancy and that puts a toll in our officers.
Yeah.
But quite frankly, those weekends are not just limited to spring break and Memorial Day weekend. And if our officers are being overworked the way that we're being told that they're being overworked, we should be reaching out and we should be asking for the support that we could be providing our officers so that they're not as told as they are. And because we're not, this false narrative has been created that we're only targeting spring break for all the wrong reasons. And so when I ask for a plan, I need a plan. When the city commission passes a resolution saying that it wants a plan, you can disagree with it and you can give me your recommendation, but I need a plan.
Understood, Commissioner. I'm not disagreeing with the fact that you're asking for a plan. I don't want to provide you a plan. What I'm saying to you, Commissioner, is that we have a pre-existing plan on a rolling basis that we employ when absolutely necessary.
Chief,
right? And what I'm saying to you,
respectfully,
Mr.
I'm
Commissioner-
gonna request for this item to be deferred, and
Okay,
we'll have
fair
a
enough.
conversation offline about this, because there is a miscommunication here where there is a failure of understanding that, yes, you have an ongoing plan, but I was asking for something specific, and what I asked for was not provided for me. And we are the city commission, and when we ask for something, I expect for it to be provided, and then I'll listen to your professional recommendation. But what I asked for in this resolution was not provided, and I appreciate everything you're telling me, but you're not giving me what I asked for.
Understood.
Okay?
Okay, so we'll defer the item
We'll
to
defer the
October
item.
23rd.
Yes, please.
And now I'd like to go back to the blue light item, number 3. Chris McClinic, do you have more information? Because I want to make sure we get it right.
Good morning again,
Hi.
Commissioner. And yes, to answer your question, we do have a little bit more information.
Wonderful.
I had an opportunity to speak with Blake Govan, the deputy, and of course, again, with the major. It is the mayor's intent that this is a voluntary basis through all of the businesses, that there is minimal, if any, cost to the city, that they're looking to have this program go into effect maybe early next year after the real-time crime center is up and running, and that it goes through the individual businesses' internet systems.
Thank you. With that updated information, do you have comments? How should we move forward with this item?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is good information. This will allow us to prepare a fully fleshed out plan, including perhaps a marketing plan to get the businesses to understand what we're doing. And hopefully I'd like to, if it's okay with you, I'd like to keep this here and come back maybe sometime early next year with a fully fleshed out.
Is coming back next year too long? Would you like something shorter?
No, that will suffice.
Okay, so for January?
January will be a good target.
Okay, thank you. Item number 11. Thank you.
Okay. Item number 11 is to discuss the potential implementation of bicycle lanes on the west side of Collins Ave as part of the upcoming Florida Department of Transportation resurfacing, restoration, and rehabilitation project on State Road A1A Collins Avenue from 63rd Street to 75th Street. And Transportation will be presenting.
Vice Mayor Fernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an item that's on the agenda, that it's here since FDOT reached out to the city. They're going to be doing a future resurfacing, restoration, and rehabilitation project on Collins Avenue from 63rd to 75th Street. And they provided us with the opportunity to partner with them and explore whether the city wishes to expand its bicycle connectivity in this portion of the city. There's many pros and cons that comes with this. Clearly, we want to provide multiple ways of connecting throughout our city, including through bicycle lanes, while also providing for the parking needs and travel needs of our community. And so I want to recognize, if you allow me, Madam Chair, Jose Gonzalez to chime in and give us his recommendations.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, Madam Chair, committee members. Jose Gonzalez, Transportation Mobility Director and Interim Parking Director. The last time we were before you was in May, and where we presented this proposal that was presented to us by FDOT to include bicycle lanes on an upcoming resurfacing project that they have programmed in the near future along Collins Avenue from 63rd Street to 75th Street. Based on our analysis, and really based on FDOT's analysis as well, because of the configuration of Collins Avenue, it has 3 lanes traveling northbound. It has a parking lane on the west side and no parking on the east side because there are a lot of driveways. But based on that configuration, there are only 2 options to being able to incorporate a bike lane along that segment of Collins Avenue, and that is to either eliminate one of the travel lanes or eliminate the on-street parking lane on the
Which is
west side
75
of
parking
Collins.
spots.
Eliminating option 2 would eliminate approximately 75 on-street parking spaces on the west side.
Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez.
Aren't we in the process of building a parallel bike lane on the beach path? So in my opinion, it's repetitive because we're gonna allocate our resources there and you're gonna take away all of that on-street parking, which might not seem important to us. There's a lot of small businesses there that people park, go in very quickly. In my opinion, if that should take care of that stretch. Yes.
Let me just check, any voting members interested in speaking before?
I just wanted to clarify. I mean,
Vice Chair.
No, it's okay. David's fine. Are you talking about the hard pack sand?
Yeah, that's being.
Where are we with that?
We put money in the budget so that our staff could, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jose, we place money in the upcoming fiscal year budget so that I think it's actually our environmental team, Amy Knowles, is supposed to be reaching out and seeing the feasibility of it.
Okay.
And just one more thing, and you know, parking's obviously tight in North Beach. I've got that. Okay. But you know, it's not out of the realm of reducing a traffic lane, and I'll explain the idea of reducing a traffic lane, because when you sort of reduce the traffic lanes, there's 3 now, right? Yeah.
Did FDOT recommend this?
So we approached them, that was the committee's recommendation at the last meeting.
Let me finish. So.
Right, they don't recommend it.
Okay. Well, I was just gonna say that when you have narrower lanes, the speeding just organically slows down.
Yeah.
And so I know we have a lot of speeding concerns on Collins, and so, here's Amy. Amy, would you mind, through the chair, speaking about the hard pack sand and where we are in the process?
Sure, and good morning, Amy Knowles, Chief Resilience Officer. So it's actually within the budget for next fiscal year to do a feasibility analysis to gauge our ability to put a hard pack, east of the dunes, and that would be for pedestrians. That's what the item that was put forward through the resolution.
Commissioner Bott.
I love this item because Jose and his team and lots of other people in the city have been working on this sort of octopus of a problem of how do you get people from place A to place B safely in multimodal manners without compromising parking or travel speeds for other people. We met with FDOT in a different part of North Beach and had a similar conversation about instead of reducing a full lane of traffic, so going from 3 to 2, and to accomplish one of the many things we're talking about, is there an opportunity to narrow the existing 3 lanes of traffic? Because one of the things we also deal with up there is speeding. Mm-hmm. So we don't want to take away parking because we don't have enough of it. We know that traffic is a disaster up there. By the way, not to take one of Kristen's devices of speech, which is such a great one. By the way, if we get more people onto other modes of transportation, we will alleviate some of the traffic and parking congestion. So it's this vicious cycle. But if we reduce the lane width to whatever is the bare minimum, if there's any opportunity, then traffic slows down a little bit, and we might be able to also then finagle a little narrow bike lane in there that is more than a sharrow.
So Commissioner, that was one of the options that we brought to FDOT. We had a very in-depth discussion with FDOT to try to look for ways of squeezing in this bike lane without affecting the on-street parking. Or a travel lane for that matter. And one of the options was squeezing the lanes. So we learned that the lanes are already 10 to 11 feet wide. There's actually 2 10-foot lanes and 1 lane which is 11 feet wide, which is where the buses travel on, and that's actually the minimum width by standards for a state road. We also learned that this portion of Collins Avenue has over 40,000 vehicles per day travel on this portion of Collins Avenue, which is why when FDOT looked at the potential of eliminating one of the travel lanes, the corridor would just fail. It would go, it's practically failing now during afternoon peaks. It would go to level of service F++ if a lane is eliminated. So we had a conversation with the district secretary of FDOT, and she expressed that they would not support eliminating a travel lane.
Okay, Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez.
I've had a business in that corridor, and I mean, it is literally a parking lot. And during high impact weekends like Basel, it doesn't move at all. It's actually one of the most frustrating corridors that we have when it gets impacted. So I wouldn't support this. Also, we have some nascent business activity in that area that's wonderful. Like the MOTAC, everybody has to go because we're building out these businesses. People are investing in that corridor, and I would hate to take away any parking that people could just go run in and get some food, because it's busy and it's trucking along and it's getting investment. So I would not be supportive, but I would like to expedite this hard packed bicycle path. As long as I have you here and we're talking about the path. I had somebody ask me, and this is for Jose, if you're over 70, could you use an e-bike on the path? Because we have a few older seniors who got ticketed for using it, and they have to use an e-bike. Could that be something that everybody could adopt so that a few of our seniors that are using their e-bikes don't get a ticket for using the path? So anyway, as long as I have you here, maybe we'll work on that together. And realistically, timeline-wise, how long?
Okay, so just to set the context, our state statutes have a lot of regulations about what we can do east of the coastal construction control line.
But Surfside has one.
Surfside is a very different situation because they created their dune system and their paths in a very specific way that was permitted by the state, just as we created our beach walk and our system in a specific way that was permitted by the state. So we have to deal with what we have here. We can ask for the permission to do this hard pack east of the dunes. However, we know there are a lot of restrictions. So for example, because it is sea turtle nesting habitat, the sand has to be kept in a way that, you know, sea turtle eggs can be laid. We have to make sure that it can be rebuilt easily after a storm event. They're looking at major storms, and we don't want to put anything there that is going to cause like destruction and something that has to be rebuilt. So this is something that that's why we will be hiring a feasibility analysis. And that's probably going to take a year because it's a bit of it's a challenge, and we want to try to get to the state to a yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If you get just two things, and then Commissioner Suarez, I'll see to you. The feasibility analysis 1 year. If we get the feasibility analysis, I mean, how long from that point? I mean, just ballpark.
Sure. I mean, I would say probably 2 to 3 years, because we would have to go through the procurement. We would have to bring on a consultant. They would have to do the design and permitting and work through all the state approvals for that.
And right now, and this is my final question, because I had a few questions about this, is this a completely separate path? Or wouldn't it be easier to just say, we'd like to add on 4 rows of pavers to what we currently have? And just call it an extension, like a mini extension, so that you can avoid all of that and we could start it? Because we already did the feasibility study in that area. You understand? It's already built out. It probably, I mean, we've already planted stuff and, dug up around there. Wouldn't it be easier to it's pavers, right? How much do you need for a bike path? I'd prefer to just, instead of saying we want a whole new path, we would just like to,
It's safety. You don't want to, you're going to have
But
pedestrians.
if there's a marked path.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do both, technically. I mean, but for the interim, they just need to mark an area where you can bike, and that way we can enforce.
So,
Okay, so Vice Chair Suarez, followed by Commissioner Bott, and then we have 2 callers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. How about we sort of split the baby here, where, we don't sacrifice the parking spaces, we don't give up a lane, but how about we have better markers along Collins Avenue that really delineate that show this is a shared path? I know we have it all over the city. It's white. It's sort of like faded everywhere.
Sure.
But if you have better signage to show that this is a shared path. I know it's not the most ideal situation for cyclists or e-bikes or scooters, but there's always a conception that why are they on the road? They shouldn't be on the road. They're taking up traffic lanes. And so if we just have perhaps better signage to let the community know that this is also to be shared by micromobility uses. How does my colleagues feel about that? Because apparently, we're going to say no to this, but I would like to explore better enhanced signage.
Or if not Collins, Indian Creek. Can we do a bike path there if it isn't already finished? Okay, Commissioner Bott.
So part of this octopus project that we're working on is already contemplating 2 of the things that you guys are suggesting, which is great to hear that you're interested in this. Not all the way to extending the beach walk for whatever pavers wide all the way up, but because in some parts the beach walk is actually quite wide, but in those really narrow bottlenecky areas, we're looking at sort of reclaiming a few feet from our planted areas so that we can build out a little bit so it's a little safer. It's not the full solution, but I just wanted to give you that information. And then also, David, Commissioner Suarez, Your Royal Highness.
Vice Chair.
Vice Chair is good. I will never remember Vice Chair, I'm sorry. David, part of this octopus also is evaluating all the painted signage on whether it's a green bike lane or Sharrow and going back, and there's money that was approved to do this, if I recall correctly, and go and do the worst ones first so that at the very least people know, to your point, that cyclists have a right to be where they are.
Okay, so we're going to hear from Vice Mayor Fernandez and then take the callers.
Sure, and Alex is just fine. I just want to highlight the fact that south of 41st Street, we have conventional bicycle lanes that are coming in south of 41st Street on Indian Creek Drive and on Collins Avenue. Then from 42nd Street all the way to 63rd Street, we have a conceptual plan for bicycle lanes that has been adopted, that FDOT is going to be using in its design for its resurfacing project from 41st pretty much all the way to 63rd.
That's correct.
And so we've created this connectivity all the way to 63rd. And now what's going to happen is that from 63rd Street on north, we're not going to have any real connectivity from the roadway. And that to me is just a concern because we need to create a grid if we really are going to encourage individuals to get out of their cars and use their bicycles and other forms of mobility. And so we can't tell people take their bicycles up to 63rd Street and then leave them with nothing all the way to 71st Street.
With
To
a
me,
beach walk.
well, but the thing is, then at 71st Street, we have bicycle lanes, conventional bicycle lanes on 71st Street, telling them go to the beach walk for something that for a year we won't know if it's feasible. I don't think it's good. I think we need to plan. We need to have a plan that provides the connectivity. I think temporarily, if we have this opportunity with FDOT, at least temporarily, we should be adopting it. And then if it comes back from our resiliency department that is feasible to do the hard pack on the sand, well, then at that point, then we can go back, and I don't know, Jose, if at that point it will be feasible to tell FDOT, you know what? We don't need this anymore because we found an alternate way of accommodating the bicyclists. But what I do want to make sure is that we maintain a level of connectivity from South Beach all the way to North Beach, because right now we're going to end up with a gap between 63rd and 71st Street, and actually all the way to 74th Street, that is going to remain up in the air at least for a year until Amy Knowles and the resiliency team is able to hear back on the feasibility of that.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
the
Madam Chair.
feedback. Okay, Commissioner Magazine.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. A couple thoughts. Jose, one, can you just broadly reintroduce the item, exactly where it goes from, where it goes to, what we would be eliminating, whether it be a lane of traffic, parking spaces, and then also why we would do the west side of the street versus east side. I think you touched on this in a previous meeting. I just think it's such a, like, we live in a beach town. So the barometer for like what makes this a nice place to live with families and individuals is, it's a pretty low-hanging fruit that you should be able to get on a bicycle or a scooter and just ride from the south side of our city to the north side, right, uninterrupted. I don't think that that's asking a ton. I don't mean a cyclist, I don't mean Lance Armstrong or the Tour de France, just getting on a casual bike and feeling safe, you know, riding south to north in our city. And then if we're not able to thread this needle, we certainly have a lot of possible redevelopment along this corridor on Collins Avenue here. We should think about some sort of comprehensive vision, or I hate the word master plan, but master plan, when there is this redevelopment, to essentially include some concessions for a public right-of-way in some of these potential redevelopment projects. So I know I threw it a lot at you. If you could just reintroduce the streets that we're talking about, what exactly would be eliminated, and also one thing I'd be concerned about is not so much what we're eliminating, but where I've really seen traffic back up in our city is when you're going from one structure to another. So a bottleneck that's created. So when we'd be going from 3 lanes to 2. I think, you know, we'd rather be largely indifferent if we had 3 lanes or 2 lanes, but where we could really see a traffic backup is actually managing down when we go from 3 lanes to 2, if that makes sense.
Sure. Commissioner, in summary, the proposal that was presented to the city by the Florida Department of Transportation is the potential to include a dedicated bike lane along Collins from 63rd Street to 75th Street as part of an upcoming FDOT project along that segment of the roadway. But given the existing configuration of Collins Avenue, which has 3 northbound lanes, highly utilized portion of Collins Avenue, over 40,000 vehicles per day, the only 2 options are to either eliminate a travel lane, one of those 3 lanes, in order to gain the space for a bike lane. However, FDOT essentially, they will not support that option at all. So that one is off the table. The other option is on the west side of the corridor, there's on-street parking. The idea would be to repurpose that on-street parking, and where that on-street parking currently is, that would become the bike lane. Why on the west side and not the east side? The east side has multiple driveways. That's where all the condos are and the hotels. And so that presents a lot of conflicts for cyclists on the east side. So that's why the west side is proposed. And the last thing I'll just say is, as was described by the vice mayor, this segment that we're talking about, 63 to 75, critical piece of the bike network puzzle, in particularly, in North Beach. There will be, at some point in the hopefully not too distant future, there will be bike lanes from 63rd Street down to 41st Street. And as we speak, FDOT is actually building bike lanes from 41st Street down to 26th Street. So it is part of that bicycle network.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jose. One thing that, this isn't an absolute statement, but in a broad sense, a lot of these businesses along the west side of Collins Avenue from 63rd to 75th actually have dedicated surface parking lots within kind of their commercial complex. When I think of where Rita's Water Ice is and things of that nature, they actually have dedicated parking there. The Publix, for example. Yes, it's nice to be able to park out front and run into the pharmacy or liquor store if you're my friend. But they have dedicated parking, right? So it's not as if we are strangling these businesses. Yes, you're giving up a little convenience, but like I said, I think connectivity and transportation is critical. So I would be in favor if we have 3 options. 1 is do nothing, 2 is take away travel lane, or 3 is take away parking. When we're talking about just that confined area between 63rd and 75th, I think a lot of those businesses actually have parking in their kind of corridors. So I would be in favor of the option of removing the on-street parking there in favor of better connectivity.
Thank you, Commissioner Magazine. So it's 75 spots. That's a lot. And we have 2 callers that have been waiting. So Stephanie, take the callers.
Madam Chair, may I just say one last thing? With regard to the loss of the on-street parking, what we would do is we would do a block-by-block analysis to see if there's any way to mitigate some of those 75 on-street parking spaces along the side streets within that segment from 63
Thank you. And
to
we do
75.
have the beach walk, and that's where people can safely travel on their bikes. Let's take the callers, please.
Okay, if we could please unmute Charlie's iPhone, and if you could please give us your name and address. Thank you.
Yes, hi, I'm Charles Fisher. I live at 635 Euclid Avenue. Thanks very much for this discussion. I think it's been great. I love hearing a lot of points that some of the commissioners have been making. I think the framing of this conversation, there was the same thinking that has got us in this traffic jam nightmare that we're currently in. So too much traffic, not enough parking. And the best and cheapest way out of this problem is to shift a portion of people from their cars to the bikes. Additionally, every study on this shows allowing people to get to businesses via bikes increases business. I personally have biked from South Beach to Cafe Bernie. I will not drive there because the valet is too expensive, but I will bike there and I will bike there more if it's safer for bike lanes. I hear a lot of concern of the travel time of people passing through the neighborhood in their car, but I don't hear any concern for the safety of those who don't own a car or don't drive a car and needing to commute. So I know lots of people who have the means who don't have the means to travel in a private car and they use bike as their primary way of traveling. And the commission needs to be concerned about their safety as well, not just the travel time of people driving through.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning. This is Matthew Goltanoff. Address is 125 Jefferson Avenue. I'd like to thank the committee and the members of this, as well as the sponsor of the item, Vice Mayor Fernandez, for the forward-looking item that was brought forth today, that was also discussed back in May and was discussed previous time as well. As many of you are aware, FDOT's been planning this project for over 2 years, and time is running out if this is going to be endorsed. And I just want to stress that, as you know, this is on our master plan. The city's adopted bicycle pedestrian master plan. And last meeting back in May, we went over a lot of the good reasons to support this. So I hope that you all consider endorsing this idea, or at least letting it go forward to the full commission, and not and taking advantage of this tremendous opportunity that the city is being given at no cost. Don't forget, FDOT is going to pay the full price of this project, and it would add tremendous value and safety to everyone in the city. So again, thank you, and I hope everyone keeps an open mind and allows us one way or the other to proceed to the full commission. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Vice Chair Suarez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would it be possible to defer this and in the meantime, reach out to the businesses that would be impacted of the on-street parking and just get their feedback, hopefully their buy-in? Because I would like to see this project move forward. I would like to see, you know, a path where, a path or a lane where the city can implement this program. Because, you know, it is a great idea that if you want to start from South of Fifth and go to North Beach, you should be able to do that safely. But I think you also mentioned the last time you spoke that you're possibly looking at even reducing further some of those spots. Commissioner Magazine brings up a really good point that a lot of these businesses on the west side have dedicated parking lots, surface parking lots. Perhaps we just defer this one more month and just get buy-in from the from the businesses that would be impacted, so that it's not necessarily a shock and that they're brought into the discussion. So I don't know how my colleagues feel about that.
Yes, I am fine
Madam Chair?
with that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and we're going to wrap this up.
Yeah, and I think if we're going to be doing outreach, I think we need to also hear from the residents of the area. I fear that if we reach out only to the businesses, we're going to get skewed feedback there.
Like Allison Park.
Yeah, because in the businesses, you know, clearly, if I'm a business owner, I'm not going to want, you know, the parking space in front of my business taken away. But if we hear from the general community, there might be residents that don't want this, but there might be residents that will say, listen, I'll feel more comfortable and safer getting on my bicycle on 71st Street and making my way down to Collins Avenue. I might go to the businesses because I have a safer way of getting there. So I think if we're going to do outreach, we need to do holistic outreach. And maybe we can defer 2 months so that we can, you know, do that more holistic outreach.
Okay, so we'll bring this back in November, and I do want to reiterate that people can get from South of Fifth to North Beach safely on the beach walk on their bike. So I do want to say that. Okay, so we'll move on. The next item that we will hear at the request of Vice Chair Suarez is number 1.
Okay, item number 1 is discuss extending metered parking hours for spaces located adjacent to North Beach businesses.
Vice Chair, if you'll tee it up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So I brought this item as a result of the new North Beach parking pilot program. And there was a lot of concern from the businesses that when the meters end at 6 o'clock, now that that there's a residential parking program, they were asking to extend the meters to a little bit of a later time to accommodate restaurants that serve food until, you know, into the evening hours. And so, Jose, if you could speak a little bit about what your thoughts are and what your possible plans are.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you. Commissioner, as you were pointing out, the residential parking permit program for North Beach is on the cusp of rolling out. The pilot program will roll out on November 1st. Residential permit programs are intended to prioritize residential parking clearly, particularly after hours, after 6 p.m., when residents come home from work, and it just facilitates finding convenient parking for the residents. We understand that there may be unintended consequences, with that, because there's a limited parking supply in North Beach. So, one of the things that we've been doing in trying to accommodate the needs of the businesses, both from the perspective of their employees as well as their customers and their patrons. One of the things that we've been doing is reaching out. Just last month, we conducted an electronic survey to 170 plus businesses in the, within and adjacent to the proposed residential parking zone. Unfortunately, we did not get a lot of feedback. Only about 11 responses were received. However, of those 11, all of them stated that there would be impacts. The residential permit program would have impacts on their employees and their customers.
So there's 170 businesses there. Do they have surface parking lots?
Some do, Commissioner. It really depends. There's
Most
there's a
or
mix of.
Most have it or no?
I wouldn't say that most have it.
A handful.
I don't have the number off the top of my head, but one of the things that was clear that we need to do is engage one-on-one the businesses that are affected, by this program. So we're teaming up with our communications department, and next week we're going to be doing door-to-door to engage the businesses to try to understand a little more about their parking needs and their hours of operation, so we can tailor the expansion of the on-street metered hours to meet the needs of the North Beach community.
And this is from 71st to 87?
It would be from 65th Street on the south to our northern city limit.
So when you go out, you can kill two birds with one stone. For the previous item.
And currently, just for the record, the meters within and adjacent to the zone 26, which is going to be created, the residential parking zone, essentially the meters are enforced up to 6 p.m. So after 6 p.m., the meters are not enforced. No one has to pay. They're available to everyone, to the public and everyone. But the thought is that as we implement this residential parking permit program after 6 p.m., currently, with the hours of operation of the meters of 6 p.m., what'll happen is that some of the residents may find some of these metered parking spaces to be convenient if they're close, and then they'll park there, and customers and employees of the businesses may not have a place to park.
Okay, Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, just to follow up with Jose, thank you. This is a theory, not a theory, but this is a tried, true, tested method that works everywhere in the city. So, for example, Washington Avenue abuts Zone 2, Flamingo Park. Flamingo Park has a residential parking program, and Washington Avenue, which is literally adjacent, has metered spots that are open till 3 o'clock in the morning.
3 a.m.
Yeah, 3 a.m. And so it really is designed to silo the use of parking. So there's residential parking, and then there's commercial parking. There really shouldn't be a mix of the two. And so this is why I wanted to bring the item forward, so that, as Jose said, some people might find it convenient to just park in a metered spot, after 6 p.m. because it's closer than the residential spot. Those are some limited cases, but in reality, we already do this citywide.
We do.
Against every residential parking zone.
Okay, Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez.
Oh, that commercial corridor, are you primarily talking about Collins or the whole?
It's wherever so the residential parking program is 65th north to city limits. So any commercial zone within that geographical area is where this would. Now, again, as Jose said, their city staff's going to go door to door to decide maybe some meter spots only need to be open till 8 o'clock. But for example, in Ocean Terrace, the owner of Sushi Beachy reached out to me saying, "Hey, look, we love this He's like, look, I live in North Beach. I love the idea of a parking program for residents, but I just don't want it to be abused on the commercial side. And so this is why I brought this item forward.
Okay, so here would be my ask. That entire area, since the Deauville was vacated and demolished, is like barely trucking along. It has been a long haul for businesses who have been there many years. The Juice Bar, could give them a hard, well, they're not, it doesn't affect them at night. But the few restaurants that we do have that are doing well, like Fifi's, there's a nice Italian place along the corridor that has really has a following. I'm not sure what the impact would be on them, but my ask would be to please not touch that commercial zone or regulate it at all until the Deauville gets built. Then go for it. Then they'll be flush with people. Maybe they'll have a redevelopment, but for right now, it's very sensitive. I think we have to be giving them incentives. I would be unregulating that area to incentivize people to go there more easily. Or if you do decide to regulate this, then the city needs to subsidize $5 valet parking in those commercial corridors at night, if that's what you wanted to do. But kind of like Wynwood, you know, you drive up, you give the $5, you know, they have the best technology ever. So if you're going to do that, then we have to subsidize the valet.
Commissioner, I think the intent is to protect the businesses on this item. It's not to overregulate. It's to protect it so that in the evening hours, if someone is going to come for dinner, they can find a metered spot and they can park next to the business.
Can you exclude that area of the Collins from this program?
Well, it's a metered spot. It's not part of the program.
Okay.
So the idea is that you're siloing commercial parking spaces for commercial, but after 6 o'clock, anyone can use it. Whether you're a residential parking, anyone can park there for any extended period of time. You don't have to be part of the residential parking program. So the intent is to protect those businesses, because if you're going to if you're going to Fifi's, for example, you should be able to park in front of Fifi's. You shouldn't be competing with anyone else, or the business shouldn't have to be competing that parking space with anyone else.
So you're saying that
Your mic's not on.
By the way, this is so much easier.
I know.
Isn't it? With a free and fair microphone system.
Too soon, Kristen, too soon.
Just feels so good to have some control.
I'm going to cut you off.
Okay. Stop it, Commissioner Dominguez, or Chair Dominguez. Okay, fine. I mean, I'm not sure that I absolutely understand what you're saying. You're saying that you would continue metered parking.
Yes.
So that
the whole idea is that we're creating a residential parking program for residential spaces. So if you're like on Byron or Carlisle, you have those are resident spots, and those are going to be restricted to only residents. But after 6 o'clock in commercial zones, those parking spaces are not restricted to anyone.
So they're getting taken up.
So they could be taken up by anyone. They could be taken up by residents. They could be taken up by just people leaving their car. Maybe they're going to the drum circle or something. So it's the reason I'm putting this is to protect those businesses and allowing people who want to park next to them should be able to. Now, again, this is for like the evening restaurants that want to,
And I have a question,
Okay.
and then we'll go on to Commissioner Bott. My question is, the item says extending the hour to what time?
Well,
What time would
that's
it be
staff.
residential?
So staff, I think they're going to go door to door. The
We are.
intent is to find out, some areas may need to go till 9 o'clock. Some areas may need to go to 8 o'clock.
Okay, Commissioner Bott.
So, when you do the outreach for the parking program in North Beach, I hope that you could also include letting everybody know that by being a part of this program, or making it so that they are automatically enrolled in the residential parking discount. Because when people have a nervous breakdown about paying $4 for a meter per hour, it's $1 an hour. So even if you need to pay for a meter for an hour or two when you first get home, $2 is not, I don't want to discount people's economic hardships, but it's not generally going to be bank breaking. However, So I would like to make sure that that communication is there, that people, once you're enrolled in the parking program, you're also enrolled in the discount resident parking program citywide. On this particular item, I support it 100%, and I would actually suggest that it needs to go later than that in some areas. You know, some of the best economic return on investment that we've had in the city has been in the North Beach area surrounding the Normandy Fountain. We have great, not good, great restaurants around there, and more coming, and cool stores, and a great bar that is open, I don't know, till 2 at least, maybe till 5, that nobody ever hears a peep out of because it's just a neighborhood bar. We need to make sure La Sandwicheria is up there. We need to make sure that if you get a craving for La Sandwicheria at 4:30 in the morning, you can find a spot. Not necessarily it needs to stay open till, those spots need to be available till 5, but we've worked so hard as a commission, as a community, to get that part of the city reinvigorated. And when the new Deauville 2.0 comes online, that is going to be huge as well. Let's not, limit our success. So I'm sorry only 11 people responded. I think that's really distressing. I don't know if you reached out to the Normandy Business Fountain Association directly, because I'm sure you'd get a good amount of information from them, not just about their businesses, but about the neighborhood as a whole. And I like the idea of going back and reaching out to lots of people, individually, and getting the information. But we should absolutely be doing this. We should absolutely be extending by cleaning up the people who are parking illegally in North Beach with this parking program. Anyhow, in theory, we will be finding more residential spots that are now vacant and usable for residents. We don't want to pit residents against the businesses that we want them to support, and vice versa. So I'm not on this committee, but I fully support it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Vice Mayor Fernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I echo a lot of the sentiments of Commissioner Bond, of Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, and of the item sponsor, and the intent behind this is not lost in me. Establishments like Burgers and Shakes, I think they're open till 5 a.m. or are allowed to be open till 5 a.m. You have the North Beach Tavern that has a 5 a.m. license, Bob's Your Uncle. You have a number of establishments that are open late, and we don't want to get in the way of their ability to succeed when we're investing so much in trying to improve North Beach. I look at South Beach, at the South Beach parking zone. The metered parking is enforced there from 9 a.m. to 3 a.m. In the entertainment district in South Beach, the metered parking is enforced 24 hours a day. And if we look at one of these two models, it would still allow the residents of North Beach who participate in the program to park in the metered parking spaces. Is that correct, Mr. Director?
I'm sorry, Vice Mayor, you said it would do what exactly?
If in the metered areas, if right now it's 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. In North Beach, for example. Once a residential parking program goes into place, will a resident with a decal, part of the pilot program, be able to park there without having to pay for parking, or will they
After 6 p.m., yes, they'll be able to park there.
After 6 p.m.?
With the current hours, yes.
Okay. And perhaps we could find a way where, we follow the model that we have either in the South Beach parking zone, where you have enforced parking up to 3 a.m., or in the entertainment district where you have 24-hour enforcement. But if you're part of the pilot program and you need parking, you can still park there. And so perhaps there's a middle ground that could be found that I just, ask you to consider, so that we help the needs of the residents, but we don't get in the way of the businesses that depend on this parking.
Through the chair, thank you. I think the way, for example, in South Beach, if you are a resident, and you're in Flamingo Park, you have Zone 2, and you want to park in a metered, you have a heavily discounted rate. I think it's like $1 an hour. During the metered hours, you're not allowed to park for free in the metered spaces.
And I'll say one thing. Sorry to interrupt you, but we got an LTC recently that all of that's going up. So the $1 an hour is turning to $2 an hour.
Okay, $2 an hour. But I think ultimately, I would like to make a motion to have the administration have discretion on what neighborhood, what zones need to be extended to what hours. Because I've talked to David Sexton in the Normandy Fountain area. They prefer to leave it at 6 o'clock, believe it or not. And this is why your outreach is important. However, near Ocean Terrace where Sushi Beachy is, they are definitely requesting that the meters go beyond 6 p.m. So I don't think, if it's possible, I don't know, legal can weigh in. I don't necessarily want to micromanage like what you guys suggest. I want to kind of give you the option to say, all right, Ocean Terrace goes till 10 o'clock, Normandy Fountain stays at 6. And you're the professionals. This is why you get paid the big bucks, and make that determination and have discretion. And if there is an issue, we'll all hear about it, right? And then we'll discuss. But I think for the sake of streamlining this, I think you guys should have the discretion on raising it. And is that a possibility? Can we do that as a? Obviously, this has to go back to commission, but would it be possible to give them sort of carte blanche on how they want to extend hours in different zones?
We wouldn't give them carte blanche. You would ask them to go out and do an assessment and make a recommendation back to you of how they would.
Do we have to bring this to commission, back to the committee, or can we bring it to the commission after they've had their analysis?
That's up to you. You can do either.
Commission then. So my motion would be to have staff research all the different business zones and come up with a plan for, parking hours in each zone, and bring it to the commission for a first and second reading.
Thank you, Commissioner. So
Thank you, and I will second that motion. And as they're going out there door to door to the businesses, if they would do both items, the one that we just heard about for the bike lane and assessing if they have parking in the back or not, or how losing a spot would affect the business, and then also for this item.
we'll ask those questions as well. Just one for clarity. When we come back to the city commission, one option is to come back with a code amendment on first reading.
Right, would
the
November be enough time?
criteria and the recommendations of the administration.
Yes.
Okay.
In which commission, October or?
It would be the October 30th city
Do
commission
you have
meeting.
enough time to get that done?
First reading with the parameters.
Because the pilot program starts November 1st.
Oh.
But it's two months of education, so that should be
Okay.
plenty of time.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so you have a conference call?
Yeah.
Okay. Next item is number 6.
Item number 6 is discuss analysis and removal of all place signage and objects that are superfluous, potentially such as digital traffic message boards, cone barricades, and other road signage.
And you'll let me know if there's any public
I will.
comment at any time. And I love this Commissioner Magazine. You're the sponsor. Tee it up.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Brad, Jose, thank you for this. I've talked to each of you individually through some meetings, but we haven't spoken comprehensively about this. My standard for driving around the city or biking around, it should be spotless, right? In so many areas, I look out, and I look out for years, quite literally years. And it's just like, what is the purpose of this? And it really struck me, Jose, when you and I were talking about something, and it was this speed table, I think they're termed, or speed trailer.
Trailers.
It was sitting in the middle of West Avenue. Full disclosure, where I live, so it's something that I looked at going in and out of my house, walking my daughter across the street to the park for years and years. And it served no purpose. My hunch or inkling is that we have poorly designed roads that essentially facilitate bad driving. For instance, on West Avenue, we have very wide lanes. We have, in some places, 5 lanes across. And what happens is, if you're doing the speed limit, cars will use the center median to pass. And I feel as if we're almost mitigating improper urban planning through just ugly street signage. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but when I look at on West Avenue or 17th Street, we just have these speed trailers that are at times placed for years, or down on Collins Avenue by Espanola Way. We've had orange street cones in the road for years and years. We have people, one, that live here, and two, that travel all around the world to come here and see the beauty of Miami Beach. And we all take such pride in our historic Art Deco buildings and our natural beauty of the beach. But we need to do our job of making our city look pristine. And this is just some low-hanging fruit. I also want to tackle kind of the signage that's on sidewalks. We'll get to that at a different time. But can you respond? It reminds me sometimes of playing the video game Paperboy, where you're just in the street and trying to navigate all these different obstacles. And in speaking with you all, it's not like we have this comprehensive plan or approach. I get the sense that some of them are just placed there and forgotten about, and there's no sense of ownership. So I'll hand it over to you where you can introduce this. This isn't placing like a blame game. This is just about getting it right going forward and how we can really have a visually and optically beautiful city.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner. So through the chair, and Brad and I are going to tag team on this item because we work very closely in terms of maintenance of traffic, which we call MOT. So signs they serve different purposes. I'll speak first to signage and devices that are out there as a result of or in connection with an MOT. So with MOTs, there are standards. Whether they're on a state road or on a local road, there are different standards that may apply. These standards call for certain devices that are required whenever there's a lane closure. The devices need to not only be placed, but they need to be placed in a certain direction. There may be cones that are, or drums as well. Those are those orange looking devices, barricades as well. So there are different type of devices that serve different purposes for different lane closures depending on where they are, if it's a major thoroughfare, if it's a local road. But these are required devices, required by the agency that has jurisdiction over the road, required by the city itself for liability reasons. And so, for example, you mentioned the Espanola Way. And that's one that's very near and dear to me because these signs are typically construction signs, and drivers and everyone associate these signs with construction. Yet there is no construction on Espanola Way. It's a closure, if you will, or it's a lane closure. In the case of Espanola Way, we oftentimes close the southbound right turn lane. So if you're on Washington Avenue traveling south, because we close Espanola Way for certain activations, we need to close that southbound right turn lane into Espanola Way, and that requires a series of cones and an arrow board. From Washington Avenue, yes.
Espanola Way is permanently closed.
I'm sorry, Collins and Washington, actually from both. We have MOT devices on left turn on one, right turn on the other. We have devices on both. True, so if you're going southbound, it would be on Collins. If you're going northbound, it would be on Washington. Sorry, I got my bearings mixed up there. So does not look pretty. It looks like a construction zone because these are construction signs. They're orange. They're not in the best shape either, many of them. But they're required as part of the permit that we had to secure in order to be able to close the lane and activate Espanola Way. That's just one example. We try to get the best looking signs out there, if you will. That's not always the case. These are construction signs, and many times they're banged up. In terms of maintaining the area, because cones could be knocked down, drums could be knocked down, for example. There are other departments that are responsible for that, for driving by and making sure that the equipment is in good state of repair and good order. But a lot of times.
So let me ask you a question. on West Avenue, and I'm using this because where I live, right? So I notice this every single day. I don't know, 5 years, there's a speed trailer in the middle of the street. There's no lane closures. You didn't know about it. You didn't know about it. Nobody knew where it was, why it was there. And if I didn't bring it up time after time and say, why is there a speed trailer sitting in the middle of a street where people are trying to cross behind it to go to the crosswalk? It would have sat there for 20 years. And the second that it was raised to police, it goes, oh, okay, sure, we'll remove it. That's one example. Who knows how many other people's streets are being just littered with this stuff that is there for no purpose. And we need some sort of inventory and rhyme or reason for why that's there. Well, why would a speed trailer, so for people to know what I'm talking about, this is maybe 8 feet high, takes up the entire median, and it's my judgment or estimation that it's there so people don't illegally pass in the center lane. And if that's the case, that is a valid concern, but we can do so in a much more aesthetic way than just having these intermittent turning into permanent fixtures that just absolutely visually litter our roadways, right? So while there could be examples of, yes, it's needed here and this is part of the lane closure, I have an anecdotal example of one where it's just not sure why and it's just there. So I think we need to do some sort of analysis of, okay, here's what's needed, but here's what's not, and start cleaning this stuff up. And if it is for public safety concerns, stop living in a state of purgatory. I feel our city, and not just with this, so many instances, we're just in purgatory. We don't know which way to go. So if it is a public safety concern, say, you know what, we're going to go out and create a median in the center of the street and have it visually appeasing, or we're going to put in one of the large flower pots like we have lining, serving as bollards on Lincoln Road. People pay a lot of taxes here, right? They deserve something more optically appeasing than an orange speed trailer in front of their homes or in front of a new park. To really live in a city where it looks like we have a comprehensive vision, we're just not living in this state of paralysis.
Here's a comment that I'll make. I think maybe the commission, we all need to get involved and let the neighborhood associations know, because we probably need their help. It might be a staffing issue. I did a walkthrough a while ago with Palm Hibiscus Star Island, and they had redundancy of signs, and they wanted it cleaned up. And Jose and his team took care of it because the neighborhood association brought it to our attention. So maybe on our end, we can mention to the neighborhood associations, hey, please take a look. If you see signs that are redundant, bring it to our attention so that we can then let Jose know, because they will take care of it, but it's a lot because they may not think it's redundant, but us and the neighborhood associations do.
Yeah, I totally agree, Madam Chair. Thank you for the feedback. I also think we need some staff that are proactive as well, whether that sits in the neighborhood affairs division. Instead of sitting in the office, go out on a Vespa or on a golf cart or on a bicycle and just go around and be like, that doesn't make sense. That sign has been sitting there for 10 years and that serves no purpose. And come back in conjunction with the neighborhood and the neighborhood associations and kind of have an all hands on deck effort. But I feel as if there's a lot of stuff that's out there just because. Right? Yes, there's some examples where we need it and we can tackle that, but there's a bifurcation about stuff that is just hanging out there. And I'll work with the chair, Commissioner Dominguez, and maybe we could work as a full body, but we also need some help from the city. And I hate just the siloed thinking that we have. Like, we are all in this together. Right? We're all in this together. So whether it's the police that are patrolling that area, park rangers, neighborhood affairs, transportation, traffic, when something doesn't make sense in the city, it's incumbent on all of us to have a vested interest and stand up and say, hey, what's going on here, right? It has to be a all hands on deck effort because that's what community is, right?
And something that comes to mind, our department has a vehicle that we have access to, is maybe having our 2 aides go out there and maybe you and I need to have a sunshine meeting and discuss how we can help tackle this with the Neighborhood Affairs
Love
Committee.
it, love it. Yep.
Okay,
Madam Chair, if you'd like, we can have neighborhoods reach out and send that email out and get some
the
additional information.
association,
Yes.
thank you. All right, so you're the sponsor, what would you like to do with this item?
You want to hear it again in 3 months?
Sure.
Keep it here, and either that or we could retire it and create a new one. It's up to you. I think it would be better to hear it again in 3 months. We'll keep it on the future.
To see what we've tackled.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yep.
so Stephanie will do that. And I would like to be added as a co-sponsor for this item.
I would as well, and if you need some representation in North Beach or want to do an extended
Yes.
field trip, I'm your girl.
Love it.
So please add me and add me.
Yeah. So Rob, will you take care of adding us, or whoever takes care of adding us as? All right, and so with that, we'll hear this in 3 months, and we'll schedule something among the commissioners. And with that, we have the last item, which I love, love, love as well. I want to be a co-sponsor of. It's number 7. Stephanie, will you read the item?
Of course. It's discuss the creation of incentives to establish Miami Beach as a local hub for World Cup 2026.
And Commissioner Magazine?
Lizette, and thank you. This isn't my item. This is, again, going to be all hands on deck. We have such an amazing opportunity. One of the great things about Miami and Miami Beach in particular is we are just the arts and culture, the sports, the event epicenter of the world, perhaps the largest global event in the entire world we have coming to our city. We're set in 2026 to host, I believe, 6 World Cup games, including the bronze medal match. And while, yes, this is happening in Miami Gardens, anytime you turn into the F1, the Super Bowl, the Orange Bowl, Ocean Drive is the backdrop. Miami Beach is the backdrop. We are synonymous with Miami as a whole. And the World Cup, it is not just a one-time event. It's a month or month and a half long event, and really a festivity. And we saw the amazing excitement. Soccer is just the lifeblood of so many of our diverse communities here. We saw that with the Copa America. We had fabulous turnout citywide for the Argentina and Colombia game. The events at Hard Rock Stadium notwithstanding. But this is just a great moment for us to really seize being on the world stage. And I've seen over the past few years, these things don't just happen organically. I saw the last World Cup, and granted, it wasn't hosted in Miami Beach, but given the diverse amount of residents and tourists that we have here, and they're all drawn to soccer, there weren't the activations that I was expecting. And I really think that we need to start planning ahead to really seize on this opportunity. The county, I believe, has actually set aside $10 million to essentially make Miami-Dade County a host city. We have let me turn it over to you for some of the things that are going on in the background, but I just think it's an opportunity for Miami Beach to really put our best foot forward on the global stage.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, Madam Chair, committee members, Lisa Arrogante, Director of Tourism and Culture. And so 2026 sets us up for the year of sports. We kick off with the National College Football Championship in January 2026. We have the Miami Marathon. We have High Rocks coming, Waterpalooza in March. And again, we have so many events and leading up to FIFA in the summer. So right now they're scheduled from June 15th to July 18th at the Hard Rock in 2026. And they have other activations planned that include the Convention Center, Bayfront Park. As of right now, the event organizers have applied for a permit, and the dates are, between June and July. It's very early, so they haven't really, shared any information with us as what they're thinking of or asked for anything. So we would like to continue that conversation. The mayor is on their host committee and see what are they envisioning, right, for Miami Beach, as we have always been a host, even like National College Football is at Hard Rock, but they are going to have their Fan Fest here. So tomorrow, the county has their final budget hearing. They have the proposed $10.5 million for Fan Fest activities. We can check and make sure that it goes through and then follow up with them. I wonder if they're waiting for that to go through to then come back to us. So I'd like to kind of continue this conversation.
I had a meeting with the GMCVB this week, and I asked if anybody could come and discuss, but it was still too preliminary because they were waiting on the county. So when should this item come back?
I would say give us a couple more months.
November, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
I think there's a October 1st countywide kickoff, right? And we should know a lot more than there. I was actually thinking about deferring it until then, but just wanted to, given a short agenda, put this on people's radar so we can start getting excited, start getting the talk out there, and really letting the powers that be know that we're committed to throwing a great event here.
Commissioner Bott?
Chair, I'm just going to go for Laura. And Joe, can I be a co-sponsor of this item as well?
I did want to talk to you about that offline. Yes, of course, all hands on deck.
Because, oh, I'm not even on the thing. Because one of the things, it's 2026, right? So it could coincide beautifully with things happening at the Flamingo Park track and field. And if there's an opportunity to do something specifically for kids and families who are soccer fanatics on our home field, that would be really awesome.
Love it. We'll bring this back in November. Thank you. Thank you to the city administration and everyone who attended this meeting. Hi, police and fire, and thank you for always being here to support. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.